In the world of entertainment, there are constantly new TV shows being released, and with more shows always coming in, other shows tend to get sidelined and they sometimes never get the true shine they deserve. Today I'll be recommending 10 of these shows that are somewhat in the shadows. These shows really have a lot to offer and they deserve attention from a bigger audience. Like and subscribe for more anime and TV show related content. I try to release one video each week. I may not be great at this, but I know for sure all of these shows that I'm constantly recommending are great, so be sure to check them out. Coming in at our number 10 spot is Undateable. This is definitely one of the most underrated sitcoms in the last few years, and this show definitely did not deserve to be cancelled. This show was cancelled, but the cancellation of this show does not reflect on the quality because this was a good show and it had the potential to go on for longer than it did. Undateable follows Danny Burton, someone who is still clinging to the single life. After Danny's last remaining friend moves out to marry, he now has to search for a new roommate. In his search for a new roommate, Danny meets Justin, who is the owner of a bar. In meeting Justin, Danny is introduced to his friends and then a weird but very enjoyable friendship is formed. The final season of Undateable consisted completely of live episodes, which I think was great because it was fun to watch the actors in a totally different setting than the previous seasons, and it was also fun to see improvised moments and some bloopers which made the show even funnier. We all know of a show named Lucifer, right? And all the attention that Lucifer gets. I believe this show is deserving of that same amount of attention. The reason that I'm mentioning these two in the same light is that they both share slight similarities to each other, but Preacher has a much darker tone. After Preacher, Jesse Custer gains an extraordinary power. He goes on a mission to better understand his newfound power and to find God. When I say he's trying to find God, he is literally trying to find God. He is accompanied by a vampire and his trigger-happy ex-girlfriend on a quest to find answers. The show is action-packed, witty and exciting, so please be sure to check out Preacher. This show has some traction, but I feel it still doesn't have the amount of eyes on it that it deserves. Gotham follows the adventures of Jim Gordon before he was the commissioner of Gotham City. The show also focuses on Bruce Wayne before his transformation into the Batman. You will also see a lot of recognizable villains in this show that relates to Batman, such as the Penguin, the Joker, the Riddler, Poison Ivy, and much more. I think Gotham kinda flew under the radar because of shows like Arrow, The Flash, and Supergirl. But out of all the above mentioned, I enjoyed Gotham the most. If you haven't watched this show yet, you should surely take a look at it because it is without a doubt one of the best superhero shows in the last few years. Ozark is truly a brilliant show. It is definitely one of the best Netflix originals out there. Jason Bateman is normally known as someone who plays in comedies, and seeing him in this setting surprised me at first. But it also surprised me on how good he was portraying a character in this type of environment. The next thing that surprised me is how a lot of people were not watching this show. Ozark is not unknown by any means, but for the amount of greatness that is packed into this show, it is deserving of much more attention. Marty Byrde is a financial advisor who gets on the wrong side of the Mexican cartel after a money laundering scheme goes sideways. As Byrde was about to meet his end, he proposes a very promising deal to set up an even bigger money laundering scheme in the Ozarks, which would benefit the Mexican cartel. He is then spared and he moves his entire family from Chicago to Missouri. Byrde thought his money laundering scheme would go smoothly because of his relocation to the Ozarks, but he and his family quickly get entangled with local criminals and things get more difficult as they progress. This show is somewhat of a slow burn, so there is a lot of groundwork before the show actually picks up, but I promise, when the show gets to that point, you will be grateful for the build up because that just makes the journey so much better. This show right here is something that destroyed me. This is definitely amongst the best shows that were released in 2020. You know, there is a different feel between a series and a movie. At times, it actually felt like I was watching a movie because the amount of action in this series is mind-blowing. If this was a list of best action shows for 2020, I would with confidence vote this number 1. Finn Wallace was the most powerful criminal in London for 20 years. With such a level of infamy attached to him, it was only a matter of time before his enemies made a move on him. After the death of Wallace, his son is now next in line for his throne and he's on a mission to find exactly who murdered his father. He is young, reckless and vicious and is doing everything in his power to get answers. For the majority of my life, I have only been focusing on American-based television, but after watching the likes of Sherlock and now Gangs of London, I am most definitely gonna place my attention more firmly on UK television because greatness like this can't be ignored and should not be ignored, so be sure to check out Gangs of London. Disrespect is what I say for this show to be so underrated. I have not once in my life heard someone else talk about this show except me, but this show is just so good and it's hard to believe that this show is just so underrated. This show could be described as an almost backstage look at a show like The Bachelor, but it is on steroids with a much darker tone. This show gives us a disturbing view of how the industry would go to extreme lengths in the entertainment business just to make money. After having a mental breakdown on set, producer Rachel Goldberg returned to the popular dating show Everlasting. Rachel as producer is what you may call a master manipulator, and she uses her manipulating skills to cause drama on set by using the contestants and putting them in certain situations that will guarantee friction and drama. This show can be somewhat disturbing, but the drama is just so good and it gets very addictive very quick, which is why I feel this show needs more eyes on it because of its addictive nature. For anyone who is a fan of action, this is definitely a show that should be on your watch list. Not only is this a great action show, it is also just a great show in its entirety, from action to drama and the acting. Banshee is definitely a slept on show, and it is time for anyone who is not watching this to wake up and smell the greatness. After 15 years in prison for stealing 15 million in diamonds, a man is released, and his first mission when getting out is to return to his former lover. In his pursuit to find his former lover, he finds himself in the town of Banshee, where she now resides. During his short time in Banshee, he gets caught up in an altercation and the incoming sheriff of Banshee is killed. He then looks at this as an opportunity and he steals the now deceased sheriff's identity and proceeds to take over his position as sheriff. If you have watched The Boys and you thought Anthony Starr's performance as Homelander was great, I would definitely encourage you to open yourself up to Banshee. This is easily one of the best action shows out there, and a lot of people do not even know that this show exists. I am the smallest level of YouTuber, but if I can get only one person to watch this show, I would be happy because this show deserves more respect and attention. This series is also based on an original concept by the one and only Bruce Lee. Assam is a martial arts prodigy. He travels from China to America in search for his sister, but his plan to bring back his sister doesn't go as smoothly and he ends up being sold to one of the most powerful tongs in Chinatown. He quickly moves up in ranks in the tong purely because of his skill in martial arts, and he steadily makes a name for himself. The show takes place in the late 1870s in San Francisco during the Tong Wars. The story focuses on Assam's journey to find his sister, his growth in the Tong, and of course, a woman. It also takes a look at the racism they faced as Asians in America, and of course it focuses greatly on fighting, which is the main attraction of the show. This show has some great choreographed fight scenes, and it is definitely heaven for anyone who has grown up on karate and martial arts movies. If you want a great paced action drama, Warrior is definitely a show you should be investing your time in. This is easily one of the best shows on Netflix. FBI agents team up with a psychologist and they interview serial killers and use the information they gather to prevent more serial murders to come to pass. They are trying to find out how these serial killers think, and they use the intel they gather to help them with similar cases. Mindhunter is based on a true story, but they of course made a few changes for the show. One of the best things about the show is how great the casting was when it came to the actors who portrayed these notorious real-life serial killers. This series is a slow burn, so don't judge the show immediately. If you are looking for a great story that is acted out great with amazing actors, you should put Mindhunter on your watch list immediately. I am not someone who would easily jump into a sci-fi TV show or a movie, but someone suggested this to me with a lot of confidence and I decided to check it out. I am currently still watching the show, but this show destroyed my life within its first episode. At first I thought the momentum of the first episode would stop, but the show just kept on impressing me with each coming episode. After a freak accident on an airplane, the FBI is put on a case, and during the investigation, one of their agents are caught in an explosion. FBI agent Olivia Dunham does everything in her power to save her partner and goes on a mission to find a scientist that will be able to help her. As Olivia Dunham's mission progresses, she discovers there is a much bigger conspiracy taking place, and the scientist she is trying to find could be the key component to the mystery that has begun from her partner to the airplane disaster. If you love the sci-fi genre and you haven't watched this show yet, you should definitely take a look at Friends because this show is guaranteed to blow your mind. The first episode will probably be enough to suck you into this world of mystery that pushes on to the boundaries of science in almost every single episode and keeps you engaged and interested for the whole ride.